Thank you, everyone, for holding. We are now joined with head coach Brian Boyer of Arkansas State. If you have a question for Coach Boyer, please press star one at this time to get in the queue to ask questions. Arkansas State is coming off of back-to-back victories at UT Arlington and Texas State last weekend, and now heads back home, actually, to face Georgia State. Coach, before we get to questions, please give us your thoughts on the season so far.
Certainly pleased to this point. Certainly, from a non-conference standpoint, getting through that schedule with only the 3 losses and being real competitive in those 3 losses was a positive, and I think it prepared us, challenged us enough for the start of conference, and we've played pretty well to this point in conference, and start out 8-0. It's thing is, it's a long, as we all know, it's a long conference season with 20 games, but happy with the way we've played up until this point.
Thank you, Coach Boyer. As a reminder to members of the media, please press star one at this time to get in the queue to ask questions for head coach Brian Boyer of Arkansas State. Our first questions come from Dan McDonald with McD Media. Dan, if you're there, please go ahead.
Morning, Coach. What have you done well through these first part of the season? Obviously, you've done a lot of things well, but what can you really pick out, and what are maybe something that you'd like to do better in the second half of the year?
The thing we've continued to do, and we knew this coming in, we knew we could score. We've continued to show that. I mean, we have a lot of scoring, not only with Gamble, but we just across the board we're able to score pretty well. And it was just a matter of we could score pretty well last year and even the year before that too, but we were not very good defensively, and so that's the biggest thing this year. Is I just like the way our team is believing in defense and challenge each other, and just competing on the defensive end. We're not always perfect, but we're just playing really, really hard and competing defensively. And as far as things to do better, this past week, specifically the Little Rock and the Arlington game, we really got exposed rebounding wise. And we knew that coming into this. We're undersized. We're going with a smaller lineup, which helps us in a lot of areas. I mean, it makes us tough to guard. But there's one of the things you worry about is your interior play and the rebound, and it got exposed this past week. So we've got to continue to improve in that area.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Dan. Question, Coach Boyer. I mean, the guard play for you has been outstanding this year, and your assisted turnover ratio specifically is very low. I mean, how are you able to be so successful and be so conscientious of taking care of the basketball when you're on the offensive end?
Well, it's just it's something it's an emphasis of ours, and again, I get back to even last year. We're pretty good in that area. We for the last few years we've been pretty good at taking care of the basketball. This year we're Gamble is playing point for us, and she's just a very confident, very good decision maker. The other guards as well, and what's been better about it this year is not only taking care of the ball, but we've been able to force more turnovers, which is an area we struggled in last year. So, the ability to take care of the basketball has been good, and the fact combined with the fact that we're forcing turnovers.
And like I think you alluded to in your previous answer, you lost a little bit of your post presence last year, but has anyone really stepped into a role this year where you can rely on them down the post for scoring output?
Well, we've got the scoring. It's just different. Last year with we had Jasmine Hunt, who was an all-conference post player, and she graduated. She was just a true back to the basket. Like she was just the one that was powerful and could just get you points in the paint. And we don't have that this year. Our front line scoring comes mainly from facing up, trying to use quickness and things like that. We really don't have it back to the basket post player this year. And so we've had to rely on, doing it with quickness and doing it more facing up to the basket.
Thank you, Coach. We actually had one person jump in for a question here. As a reminder to members of media, please press star 1 to get in the queue to ask questions for Coach Boyer of Arkansas State. Caller, if you're there, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach, this is Kevin Turberville from the Sun.
Okay.
Hey, just wanted to ask you just to share your impressions of the conference, what you've seen of it so far, and just in general, looking ahead to the second half, kind of reaching the midway point, and then going into the second half of the conference race. Is what you see.
I thought coming into this year, I thought our conference would be, I feel like better than last year across the board. Now we didn't fare as well as a group, non-conference wise as we probably needed to, but I still just think that across the board, it's better. When you look at the preseason polls, the fact that we had 5 different teams with first place votes and a first place vote, and I think that was it was something you could easily argue that, and I don't think that's changed. I think across the board the league's better. There's no sure wins, especially on the road. So 8-0 is fun, but it's like I said, there's a long way to go. It's a lot of really good teams.
The concern you look ahead to your schedule, you really closed the season with a lot of road games. A lot of trips in the second half of the season.
And that's yes, and as from my standpoint, I'm aware of that. That's team wise, it's obviously it's fun to be 8-0, and we're looking at a 4-game home stretch here. But it's not only fun, it's actually a must. Because as you said, I mean, when we get into February and the first week of March, we're going to have a lot of road games, and so like I said, it's this home stand coming up 4 straight is it's really critical for us. We need to get through this in a positive manner before we hit the road again.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the questions, and thank you, Coach Boyer. That's all the questions we have for you at this time. We appreciate your time today.
Sounds good. Thank you.